Hey y'all, how are we doing? Shout out to Bear Nation for tuning in for another episode of the Bear Necessities of Entrepreneurship, a podcast for the entrepreneur-minded, created by entrepreneurs, discussing the real stories that give you the tools to overcome challenges and stay true to your real self. As always, I want to give a shout out to our partners over at Fin. Fin is a social good platform that creates employee engagement and builds culture. We've teamed up with Fin to give back to the communities that we serve. For every episode, we will be donating $10 to the cause of choosing by our guest in the Fin platform. Enjoy today's episode. How are we doing, Bear Nation? We are back again for another episode of the Bear Necessities of Entrepreneurship. Today, we're going to be talking fashion and sustainability, and I'm excited to introduce you to our guest, Luisa El Bouyahyani, who was born in Tuscany. And then after studying marketing, she began her career in the world of fashion. For her, work moved her first to Milan, then she was in Dubai, then New York City, where one day, opening her wardrobe, the idea of Share My Bag was born. She decided to leave everything in her world of fashion to dedicate herself to a more important mission. And this was to create a new way of experiencing fashion in a sustainable way through her platform that is defined as kind of the Airbnb of fashion. Easy to use, easy to select, and very collaborative. So Sylvia, say hi to Bear Nation for me.
Yeah, hi everyone. Hi Rob. Thank you so much for inviting me. Super exciting being here today.
Awesome. Well, we are excited to have you on. And, for the listeners, when we talk about, we'll get into the story, some of the things to know about Sylvia and Share My Bag is not only does she leave kind of the fashion world to start something cool, she's gone through accelerator programs in New York. And actually, it's how we met. She came through an accelerator called Venture Out. And I mentored her way back when. She recently just went through the Startup Bootcamp Fashion Tech Edition out of Italy. So coming up on the tail end of that, scaling and thinking about how to take the business to the next level. She's also United Nations Environmental Program Ambassador. She is a TEDx speaker. So lots of really cool things that we'll get into today. And, I kind of want to start from your journey of you working in fashion. Why fashion? What got you into the world of fashion in the first place? Before I even start about all these other things, like why fashion? What drew you to that industry?
Yeah, so it's a wonderful question. I'm not very often asked about. Fashion has always been my passion, to be honest. Since when I was a child, I used to draw clothes and accessories. Then when I decided what to study, I prefer to study marketing and communication and to have that skills that could allow me to create strategies to communicate better the world of fashion. So I always had the idea to develop my career in the fashion business. Of course, Italy is a great place where to start. I come from a small town close to Florence where I had a university and I had my first job at Gucci. That was a wonderful experience. Then, as you said, I traveled a lot. I changed my job a few times, and also traveling around the world. And this is something that I recommend to everyone, to challenge yourself and go out your comfort zone, because, traveling, having the chance to experience new cultures, new ways to approach also the business, the job you can do in a country or in another one. I think it's very interesting and you learn so much. I would say sometimes even more than what you can study in the books.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, growing up in a small town and kind of falling in love with fashion kind of drove you to that. But, you said that you went to school and decided to study marketing and communications.
Yeah.
What excited you? What drew you to the marketing and communications side of business when you were thinking about degrees? Because, we go to college and many people don't know what the hell they want to do. They go to college, they pick a major, And sometimes they stick with it, sometimes they change, and sometimes they don't even know if they like it or not. I went and started in athletic training and then moved over to business and then marketing. So what drew you to the marketing communication side of the business when you were thinking about university degrees?
Yeah, it's usually my personality. I usually have pretty clear ideas and I'm very determined. And what I always liked about marketing is the combination of strategy, but also creativity. Because, and I've seen this during the years, even more than what I thought. It's a type of business in a constant evolution. Think about all the, all the strategies you can create in marketing today with digital. Every year you have news. So in fact, I still study every day to keep updated. So I really like the idea to have the chance to be able to create strategies to communicate and give more value to a project. Because sometimes you have wonderful projects, wonderful brands with the really a big value also in terms of the creation and the artistic part. But sometimes people or entrepreneurs are not able to communicate it properly. So they are less strong than other brands or other companies that have less to say. Yeah. So this is something that really created a real passion on me. So it's also the reason why I changed my career from having a corporate job for one specific brand to going to consultancy. Because I found it also for myself, for my creativity, I found it very interesting to have the chance to see different projects and to be inspired by each different situation. Yeah.
I love that. And I feel that it's kind of why I got into that marketing background as well as, marketing itself is kind of boring in the fact that it's, we still use the 5 forces model and the 4 Ps and all that stuff. When you think about it from a theory perspective, but when you put it into practice, marketing communications is fun because you get to think of all kinds of amazing ways to tie the why and the core messages and your core beliefs into how you go about speaking things into existence for a company, which I find extremely enlightening and fun to do. And so I'm guessing you're the same way when you think of marketing and communications and then coming to, share my bag and thinking about its core mission. And so
absolutely agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know, we had this career where after college you had Gucci and you traveled and you're a precious metal buyer and you went and did event management and, brand management and you're kind of doing all these different things for these amazing companies. And you kind of sat to this point where you opened up your closet and just I have this idea. So I know that we all talk about there's this big idea moment. I don't think it's any one major thing. It's kind of a collection of things. So what was it like, where did this idea and mission start driving from and how to talk with that decision to be I'm leaving the corporate world. I'm leaving stability for starting my own company. Walk me through that process and how long did that take? And what were the factors that led you into that?
Yeah, to be honest, it was a surprise for myself too, because I never planned to become an entrepreneur, to open my own company, an innovation company, so an innovative startup as Sherpa. But as you said, one day I just opened my wardrobe. We were saying my fashion has always been my passion. So I was one of the people that used to buy a lot. Yeah. I used to do a lot of shopping, especially when I was living in New York. I had my marketing job for big brands. So I always wanted to be on trend for the business meetings, big events I had to organize for them. But then one day I opened the wardrobe. It was full of things, but at the same time, I had this feeling like I had nothing to wear. So I thought, okay, there must be something wrong in this. Yeah. So it was not something immediate. In the next days, I started thinking why do I feel like this? There must be something wrong in the way we approach fashion, the way we consume fashion, as consumers. And yeah, from that day, everything changed because I couldn't ignore this feeling, this idea that I had. So basically, my idea was, okay, I was living in Brooklyn. I would like to. I'm in Brooklyn. There are thousands of girls around me that maybe have something I may need in their wardrobes. I would like to take a look at their wardrobes and see what they have that I could borrow for one day or that specific event. I made some searches. I saw that there were some platforms for fashion rental, but it was more like Rent the Runway. That is, of course, a huge company in the US, but it's not an open wardrobe for women. So where women can rent out their own clothes and accessories. And this is a way to create value to what you already own. This is the reason why we are defined as the Airbnb of fashion. The concept is exactly the same, but for fashion. Yeah. So at that point, the mission was so important for me that I don't know if I was crazy or brave, but I decided to leave my job because, of course, was very busy. I didn't have enough time to develop another company, and I dedicated myself to share my bag.
I love that. And you know, it's kind of funny because when you think about that, I think we all have that feeling of, at least I do anyways. I look at my wardrobe all the time and I hate 90% of the stuff in there I don't ever wear. Like I get it, I wear it once and then I'm like, no. And I realized that I only wear about 5% of my wardrobe anyways.
Yeah.
And you know, I always feel like I buy stuff because, I think I'll look good in that, or I think I'll like that, or whatever, and I don't, and then it's just wasted space. And I think that's part of like the fashion industry, right? Like, you know, this is why you put everything on sale. It's like, I got to buy it because it's on sale now. I don't need it. I don't even know if I have the right clothes to go with it, right? But I'm going to buy it anyways. Who the fuck cares? Like, it's a good deal. And I think that's really, you know, I think also the consumer mindset of fashion, of just how we look at buying what we need and what we would wear versus buying things to buy things that are on trend or whatever would be a big step in the right direction just from the consumer side. And then not only this, I love this idea of like sharing, right? We live in a sharing economy. We share homes and Airbnb. Everything. We share cars with Turo and blah, blah car. We couch surfing. We share our couches. We share everything intimate with ourselves. I mean, our homes and our cars. Why not our clothes? And so I think that's such a cool idea. So I know though, too, if I'm not mistaken, this isn't your first entrepreneurial journey. You had another co-founder stint for a company that you built for 3 years. When you decided to leave and do this for you, like this new thing with this passion and innovation around fashion versus when you had Hita Lab, did you attack that differently? Did you I've done this once, I could do this again? Or did you look at it differently by being a two-time founder? Or did that experience help you, guide you, or make you more confident in your second go around as a founder?
Yeah, for sure. It was an experience that was useful, to have an idea of how you create a startup, how you face a world of innovation, how you have to, create your own brand identity and to have a presence in the market. But with Share My Bag is very different because it's something that came from myself, a mission that I strongly believe is useful in the fashion business. So I think that I'm driven by a much bigger motivation. Yeah. So the other company was something created with a couple of friends, but then our vision after a while were pretty far. So I decided to focus more on Share My Bag and to live that experience, because Share My Bag, I know it's a very big project. I want it to be international, really as an Airbnb. I don't want it to be just a service or a website. It must be a new way to approach fashion. So I really see, and I think it's very important to underline what you were saying about fashion shopping. So sometimes you buy something, or not sometimes, very often you buy something not because you need it. I think we all have enough clothes to cover us to go out. But of course, you think you may look great with that outfit, or is that store window that invites you to buy that new trend. And this is a big part of the problem. So another reason why we try to work hard, I collaborate with the United Nations, for example, with Fashion Revolution, because I think that we have to work also on the origin of the problem and try to give a message to the consumers that the market has to change. Because of course, problems like these, like the overconsumption in fashion, they were created by fast fashion, by the idea that we are wearing trendy clothes for a fraction of the price because, it's cheap, so you can afford every month to buy something new because the jacket you see in a window maybe will be there just for a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. Then there will be a new trend. I remember when I was a teenager, I used to walk in the city center of my town, and I used to fall in love with that dress in the window of a store and waiting for sales to buy it. But now it's impossible. After 2 weeks, 1 month, that dress, that jacket will not exist anymore. There will be a new trend out. You have to follow, basically, you have to follow the trends, and it's too fast. There is an overconsumption. And of course, this has a big impact, not just in the consumer, but also in the planet. Consider that fashion industry is the second most polluting one.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that during the year of COVID, I was surprised there was a big change in the way it is communicated. So also big brands, they tried to start this process to become more sustainable. And the media, all the fashion system created more awareness also for the consumers. So I really work every day, not just to develop and promote Share My Bag, but also to educate the consumers to go back to another approach with fashion, to understand that fashion is art. It's something that has a creation process behind it. So there is a value we have to be open to pay. So what we say is buy less, be more aware of what you really need and what you need to buy less and rent more. So that dress, accessory, jacket you need for that event, maybe you can rent it for that night because you will use it just once or, maybe a few times.
Yeah, I think that's important to think about. We buy something for one-time use, and then what do we do with it afterwards, right? Versus can we rent it for that one-time use and then not have to worry about it? In fact, it's funny. My wife is going to a bachelorette party, and the bachelorette party, they had this thing, they went a theme one night. I think it's wear something pink, and my wife doesn't wear pink. That's just not her. She's she's a New Yorker. New York, black, a lot of black in our wardrobe, right? You're walking around everywhere. It's hot in the summer. You're gonna sweat. You just covered up wearing a lot of blacks and grays. And so she was looking around all the shirts. I have to buy something pink, and it's what am I gonna do with it after? I was well, obviously gonna donate it somewhere so that somebody else can use it. But just that, she's I don't want to have to buy something for one-time use.
Yeah.
Why is there a better solution? Right. And it's funny that she's asking, well, actually, I know of a better solution. I have friends that run companies like this. And I think this is a really interesting time because I know everyone out there listening in Bear Nation probably is I fucking know what you're talking about. This, we've all been there. And so I love that message, right, of buy less, rent more, and starting to think more about, okay, what things do you want in your wardrobe as your staples? And then what can you rent to have a little fun or try something out or whatever. I think that's what's also cool because a lot of times we buy and then return, buy, return, try it on. It's that's not helpful because once you return it, like what do they do with that? Does it go back into resale as a new product because it's been bought and used? And so I think there's a lot of things that we just need to think about in that process. And I think this is a really cool education piece. You talked a lot about education. So I kind of want to talk about, what is the mission and purpose of Share My Bag? So for you, we obviously know that you want to talk about fashion sustainability and innovation, but what is the mission and the purpose of this company? Like when you think about it and sit back and like, yeah, this is what it's about. What is that?
Okay, sorry, I lost you. So Share My Bag has a big mission that is to create a new approach to fashion through sharing. So women have to, because we are starting with a female target, but we will open also to men and also kids wear. Women have to start thinking about what they have in their wardrobe as a value. They have the chance to give a longer life cycle and a longer life value to each clothes and accessories they already own. So our mission is to re-educate in this sense, to create a new model, a new consumption model based on rental and sharing. And of course, we try to do this also working a lot on the creation of the community. Yeah. Because women that are part of Share My Bag, they have to feel part of something. Yeah. They have to, share the same values, because we are talking about values. They are women that some of them, they maybe want to save money and rent something instead of buying because it's cheaper. Some of them want to make money from their own wardrobe, and it's fine. And most of them, they want to be more sustainable. So they want to be trendy, but in a more sustainable way. Yeah. And you can do this really easily. So we built a platform where women can create their, we say, a kind of digital wardrobe. So post listings of the clothes they want to share. They have the chance to see, if they look for a bag to rent, they can see on the map what is available around them. Because another part in terms of sustainability in fashion is also the logistic. So we want to give the priority to the idea to rent something from another woman from your same city, from your same neighborhood. Of course, then they have also delivery available, but they are all small things that can make the difference.
So, I love this idea of community, and, obviously we're reimagining the sharing economy and reimagining how we consume, right? It's a different consumption model. Yeah. But community is really important. So when you're building so when you're building this company, right? And I know this from talking pre-show and talking in the past, building community first, kind of the business second, right? And so on Instagram, I think Share My Bag has over 20,000 followers globally, right? And there's a lot of great conversation happening. So why and how did you go about building community first? Because that was obviously fundamental, as you just said, for your business. Tell me a little bit about why that's fundamental and how did you go about building it? Like, it's not fucking easy, right? I bet it's like you're building this thing around a business model and not making any fucking money and being like, this is entrepreneurship. Like, people out there listening, Bear Nation, this is fucking entrepreneurship. Sometimes you have to do things. It's always the chicken or the egg. And we're going to get into funding later because we're going to get to, there's some things that she's doing right now. There's always this chicken and egg approach. And, I wish I could give you the easy answer. At the end of the day, traction rules all, right? Plain and simple. Yeah. And so if Sylvia's sitting there, she's going to talk, we're going to talk, the reason I asked this question, I want to preface this is that, Sylvia's left a big corporate job. She worked at companies like QBZ, Gucci, some other amazing brands. She got to live in New York City, in Brooklyn, by the way. Shout out to Brooklyn. Yeah. What part of Brooklyn were you in again? Because I'm in Crown Heights now.
In Bed-Stuy.
Bed-Stuy, okay. I'm just on the border, so I'm North Crown Heights, close to Bed-Stuy.
I
was
been
in
there
Williamsburg
for a couple of weeks. The first Airbnb when I arrived.
Yeah, I started in Williamsburg, and then we were there for about 5 years, and then obviously the pandemic.
Yeah,
Williamsburg's great. I love Williamsburg, but Williamsburg's meant to be lived. Apartments in Williamsburg are meant to be lived out of, so you're going out all the time. Great when I was there. Pandemic, didn't have the space, so I moved to Crown Heights, and I absolutely love Crown Heights. Like my whole street's like all brownstones. Like I ain't rich like that. I'm in an old apartment,
I used
but like
to
the
live in a
street's beautiful.
brownstone. Yeah.
Did you? Oh,
yeah,
man.
and I loved it.
Awesome. So sorry for going off track, but we're talking about what being an entrepreneur, and so here Sylvia's leaving all this behind and leaving stability and money on the table behind to start a business for a passion and a purpose. And the first thing she's doing is one of the hardest things, building community, which honestly is not netting her much money out the gate because she's focusing on community versus product and sales. So talk to me fundamentally, why was it so fundamental and how did you build that community? And what do you think was the hardest part about doing it? And how did you overcome that?
It's a great question. And as you said, there is not a magic formula we can recommend or suggest because I think that the key is to test different ways to build the community and see what is the better way to follow, the better strategy for your own business and your own audience, because it depends a lot on the target you want to talk to. Mm-hmm. So, for example, in my case, for us in Share My Bag, we started and we were doing really great with in-person events. In fact, I organized 2 events in New York, and I was going to do the first event in Italy, in Milan, but then the pandemic arrived, so we had to stand by with events. Why events? Because to build a community, you are an online platform, you are creating something digital, but then people, they also need to feel part of something. And what I've seen is that they really love the fact of knowing the founder of the project. So, it's not a big corporation that is trying to make money from, our wardrobes, but it's another woman like us. She needed something that actually we also need. Okay. So this was the process that made me realize that women wanted to be part of it. And so I started to involve influencers, and I'm not talking about paid sponsorship by influencers because we couldn't afford it, but influencers that wanted to make a step to be more sustainable. And also influencers that had stories to share, influencers with a project on sustainable fashion of their own business. So I started with this formula of Share My Bag events, we can say, with a panel of influencers sharing their experience, why they love sustainable fashion. So, take the chance to, during the event, not just to promote Share My Bag, but also to give interesting topics to our users, and at that time to the women that were joining our group. So this was super, super useful. And what I liked the most is that in that occasions, women living in a big cities like New York, they also created friendships or business relations, and they are still in touch. So they write us to know, hey, when will be the next event so we can meet each other again, if it's a dinner with your best friends.
Yeah.
So I really found it so useful. Of course, with the pandemic, we had to stand by with in-person events. But now in Italy, something is moving in the right direction to be able to start again with events. So if we will not be able to do it in person, we will organize an online event this year. Another strategy to build the community is for sure the use of social media.
Yep.
And especially when you don't have a big budget, to do big advertising. As you were saying, there is a problem of chicken or egg before, okay?
Yeah.
So you don't have the money to invest in marketing, so you don't get the traction, but how you can do it? So in this case, my experience in marketing was fundamental, and especially in social media. So we work a lot on the creation of contents that can be interesting for our community. Again, not just talking about share my bag and that's it, but talking every day about the importance of sustainability, ways to be more sustainable. And also through the social media, we tried to build the community, creating the interviews with some influencers, sharing the stories of the members of our community that maybe are young women and they are creating their own project. So as you can see, we go over the pure promotion of a service.
Yep.
There must be so much more because the community is made of all these things.
Yeah. And I think that's, one thing that's amazing is the events and the topic and the conversation, right? And then creating community around like-minded individuals who want to do better and have an impact. And you think about the millennial and Gen Z generations, right? They want, and they prove it. They spend their money on companies that make impact. They do things to make impact, and they leverage social media way more in their buying decisions. So it seems only natural to create the community approach first, because the business model is also meant it's a win-win-win, right? The person gets to rent something for a night or two to look good. You make money, and then the one renting out makes money, so they can make money on renting out their clothes, and it's like a sharing economy, right? When we think about the whole consumption model of like an Airbnb. So if you don't have the community to do that,
and
you don't have the product, you can't sell.
Yeah, exactly. And also another important part that is one of the reasons why we decided to invest a lot in the community is also that in sharing economy platforms like Share My Bag or think about Airbnb or BlaBlaCar, as you were saying, where you stay in the car with people you don't even know, the trust is fundamental. So to create trust, people, they need to feel themselves part of something.
Yeah.
So this is the community.
Yeah.
And it's fundamental.
And one of the things that also I think that really is important to look at when you create community, and you said the word trust, right? There are tons of amazing apps and things out there that were meant to be part of the sharing economy or reselling stuff, all these things that were meant for good. And then it gets weird, right? Craigslist, Letgo, etc. I mean, all these things. One time my wife was selling something and was like, yeah, my husband will drop it off. And the person on the other end was like, no, I want you to drop it off. And I was like, that's sketchy. Just like cancel the deal.
Yeah.
So when it made us not want to use that app anymore, right? And I get like there's always there's a lot of good and a few bad apples, and the bad ones can make everything worse. But when we think about these, what Airbnb and what BlaBlaCar and what Car2Go or Turo have done well is that there is a high level of trust based on the way they built the community, the way they validate all these things. Like a lot of people know I dog sit on Rover a lot, and Rover's been in the news recently through a few things happening with, some really bad sitters and loss of pets. And, I've had these conversations with people that before I even take on a dog, I want to talk to the owner. I want to meet the dog. Like the high level of trust that has to happen for me to be comfortable having your dog in my apartment for long periods of time is important. That's the same thing with every community-based app approach. And when people are out there thinking about, let's create a community-based approach, I'm going to say this really clearly, and I've talked to a lot of people about this. Creating community is fucking hard. Everyone thinks it's easy. There's all types of communities. Journey. It is hard because you want to get the right people that put in the right amount of energy and effort and have a high level of trust. And that can be broken real easy. And so you don't want to build too big too fast. You want to bring the right people. Yeah. And it's important, like you've done, is to get those brand ambassadors, those leaders who are going to organize meetups and organize those things with you and on your behalf in different cities. And so I think that's a key point for all those out there that talk about startups, like, oh, we're going to build a community around this. And, I talk about the community that Bear Nation's building. And the first episode I said, I want to be the layover spot, right? I want to be the bridge that you come across. Like, I am like, you come, you be a part of Bear Nation, and then Bear Nation, either myself or the collective group of Bear Nation, starts pairing you off in the communities that and places you need to be a part of. I'm not trying to build this big community for myself of like, hey, let me have this community and everything happens here. It's like, no, let's create a community that passes to others so you can find your final destination and you can be a part of that.
Yeah, so you can create value for each other. So, and this is where, the community really then has success because people can see this.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about what you're building and how you went about building community. And so, as you're growing and scaling, right? So during the pandemic, we've had some amazing, I think a lot of people were sitting at home doing research and you couldn't go to the store and buy. And you start realizing like how much you buy on a regular basis. And people are like, oh shit, like the money I have still in my account. I'm not spending on super shit. And we started realizing like this idea of fashion and not. So, you're coming out of Startup Bootcamp, Fashion Tech Accelerator, and you've done a lot of work on the business side of things and really looking at the fundraising side. And, for a lot of entrepreneurs out there, they ask me this all the time. It comes down to, I said this earlier, traction rules all. It's like, do you spend time running the business? Do you spend time fundraising? Because fundraising is a full-time job as well. You have to run it as a full sales funnel. So tell me about how are you, without going too deep into it, but like, how are you approaching this, fundraising process and also managing to run the business while also going through this? So just talk to me about kind of that experience and what you're focusing on and how you're splitting up your time.
It's a really great question, and it's something really challenging, I will be honest, because for me, with my background as, a marketing, more a marketing professional, this part of business plan, investor search, creating the business model, financial model, all these, I really had to study, a lot. So the accelerator was useful also to create more knowledge for myself as an entrepreneur, also from this point of view. Of course, it's challenging to, as you were saying, try to balance the investor search, that is really a super intense activity, with, let all the other activities go on. So don't forget to, going on with the promotion and marketing side of the project, taking care of the community. Then, of course, I have a couple of collaborators, but, you are the founder, the CEO, the entrepreneur. So you want to be on everything, especially at the beginning in the initial phases of a startup. I'm trying really my best to balance these aspects. But now I realize that I really need also some help. So now I'm looking for interns I'm really happy because a lot of young women love our project and they would love to be part of something like this. I have a lot of students from university that are writing their master thesis about sustainable fashion, talking about Share My Bag. It's really something I like. So I think that it's important going on in the growth stages of the company to be able to also organize my own work, but also create new figures and new professional figures inside the company. They have to, have a value. Not just bring value to the company, but for me, I also was an intern in the past. I think that it's fundamental also to create a professional path for them where they are learning something. So I'm trying also to work on this point of view. So if I can create the structure in terms also of human resources, I'm sure that it's easier and stronger the growth of the company, because now I'm starting to realize that I really have to deal with so many aspects of the business that it's time to grow the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And out there, you look at all these big funding rounds, like how do they have time to do it? When you have the right team, founders can focus on those funding rounds. That's why you see the Series A, Series B, Series D. But when you're in that pre-seed to seed stage, which, a lot of the companies we talk to are in that seed, pre-seed to seed or seed to Series A, is you're usually a smaller team. So you're doing a lot of everything. And it's important at some point that you need to bring in help. You can't do everything on your own. Yeah. But it's when do you pull those levers, because cash is king, and cash is usually in short supply early, because every money and dollar that you make goes into something else to build the business.
I think it's important to be, critical with ourselves as entrepreneurs, and to recognize if we are not, if we don't have enough time to take care about part of the company. So at a certain point, it's a kind of our baby, but we have to share it with somebody else to make it grow properly. Yeah.
The hardest thing to do is look in the mirror and then admit when you need help and bring in that help and give up control. Right. Yeah. Jack Welch used to say, I bring in people smarter than me to run the business that in those specialty areas, and they report to me, and then I manage the full strategy. Right. You need to bring those people in.
Yeah. We can't be expert in every area. So
we try,
it's important to be aware of this. Yeah, we try. Of course, we do our best. And for me to realize this was important to have a kind of summer break, just a couple of weeks, not a long summer break. But, when you are inside all your daily activities, you don't see it in a proper way. So sometimes you have to say, okay, let's stand by for a second. And at that time, you can see yourself, your work from, out of the situation, and you can understand what is better maybe for, to improve it.
Yeah. No, I love that. Sometimes you got to take a step back. Sometimes you don't see the forest through the trees. Or actually, this other one that I heard when I was on the Lead Sell Grow podcast, Eric shared, you can't see the picture because you're in the frame. Right. And sometimes you have to step back.
Perfect. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I love that one way better. The forest in the trees makes sense, but the picture in the frame one just it's kind of like a oh shit moment like that. Wow. Shout out to Eric for giving me that one in my repertoire.
Yeah, perfect. Sometimes we, as entrepreneurs, we almost feel guilty to take some time off because we say, okay, I can't abandon, I can't stop. But I think it's mandatory to recharge our brain, our ideas, and go back to work even more with more creativity and a better view of the situation.
Absolutely. And it needs to happen on a regular basis. It needs to be like an annual thing or a monthly thing or whatever. I went out on a 3-day trip out into the mountains with my wife where we had no cell service, and it was amazing. And I needed that. And I hadn't taken any sort of time for myself in the last 2 years, truly. And I was like, oh shit, this needs to happen more often for me. So I get that. Sylvia, I've loved talking to you. I know we can go down a million other paths, but we're at the end of our time. So I want to, kind of get to the final 5 questions of the show. I have one bonus question for you. My listeners know that I lived in Milan, and I love Italy and spent 2 years traveling Europe and Italy. You've lived in Italy, some of your big stops were, Milan, Dubai, New York. You traveled a lot. What's your favorite city? And if you could move to any city, where would it be?
I like my city for me is New York, 100%.
Yeah.
Because I think so. You have to be aware when you live in New York that it is a city that gives you a lot, but also takes a lot from you. Okay,
That's
like
for
for
damn
example,
sure.
that's like, for example, time or energy sometimes, but I find it so inspiring. About leaving, to be honest, I created a situation that I really like. I appreciate that was before the pandemic. Now it's not easy traveling, but was living half in Italy, especially in Tuscany, in my hometown, in the countryside, and half time in New York. This was the perfect balance and situation for me, because every time I come to New York, I find it so inspiring. There is a magic energy. So this is, I think, the best reply I can give.
I love that. I mean, for me, it's, Rome. I love Rome and would love to be like New York and Rome kind of back and forth.
Yeah.
Because then like with Rome, you can go to Tuscany really easily. You can go to the sea really easily. But
the food is good.
The food's awesome. Cacio e pepe, carbonara. I mean, I miss Italy. I can't wait to go back. Either that or Barcelona. I love Barcelona too. That was also another amazing place. But
wonderful.
I love it. I also haven't traveled, in Dubai or Far East. So I don't have that experience yet to like be able to compare against what my experience is.
Yeah, it's an experience you should do, Dubai in particular. But of course, I think it's more an experience. Living there, I think living in Dubai is a kind of Las Vegas or, stuff like this. Not in the sense that you go there to have games or shows, but in the sense that is a city that was born from the desert. So, there is not so much the cultural and historical part, but it's very fascinating. And it's different from the other Emirates cities because it's the most open to the Western culture, because it's 85% of the people, they are expats. So it's really interesting. You find people from all over the world.
We'll have to check it out. That was the kind of bonus question. So, what advice, thinking about I talk about training leaders of today, but also leaders of tomorrow. So when we think about anybody who has an entrepreneurial mindset, think about being an entrepreneur, whether that's Gen Z, a millennial, or, anybody else, what advice would you give to those thinking about entrepreneurship and our future leaders, our future entrepreneurs of tomorrow?
I think that it's fundamental to be very determined, you don't have to look for the motivation from somebody else or from the context where you live. You have to find it from yourself, and you have to strongly believe in what you do. At the same time, always be open to listen to suggestion and other people's opinion. So you have to find the balance of being, very strong and go on with your project. Also, if it will be difficult or not easy at the beginning, because of course, opening a company, being an entrepreneur every day is a challenge. Yeah. But it's a really big growth, not just in terms of business. I think also in terms of your person. It's a big growth because you will understand also some new parts of your personality that you never experienced before.
I love that. So what do you think, kind of coming back to that, it's being brave and understanding that like you need to follow your passion internally, right? Only you can supply yourself, but you need to also be open and realize that you got to listen to what the world and universe is giving you and develop that. So I love that. What is your superpower?
What is mine?
Superpower.
I think I'm a good communicator. And that I think that I can communicate in a positive way to people, and I'm able to, to share my motivation, my passion for what I really do. And I think it's important. I mean, it's something that people tell me, so it's not my idea, but I think communication is super important. Can help you really to create value also from things that you didn't realize could help you somehow. And as we were saying at the beginning, good project, bad communication average project, good communication will be more successful. So let's talk about communication, not just in terms of marketing, but also of yourself in terms of person and entrepreneur, because you are the person that represents your company.
I love that.
I think it's fundamental.
I think it is too. Too many, and this is hard. We have so many entrepreneurs out there that communication is maybe not their number one skill. They're technical, etc. When you get to it, you need to understand communication is a big piece of your business. And so having that as your superpower it's also part of why the community aspect of your company was able to be built, very strongly.
Yeah, in fact, maybe in my case, it's part of my personality. So also in my private life, this is the way I am. It's not the same for everyone, but I think also if somebody doesn't feel so confident on communication, you have entrepreneurs, they don't like to speak with people. You have to train yourself to be more open, because it will be so much useful.
Absolutely. What is one book, resource, show, piece of content that people should be looking at, especially as it relates to entrepreneurship right now?
So I would go maybe with a classic one, but I recommend the Lean Startup because for me it was a kind of day one of my journey in the creation of the startup. Because for me it was a complete new world. I just left my job and I made some searches and asked also to some people working in the startup business saying, okay, I want to open my mind to this new type of experience, like opening a startup. Where do I start from? So for me, it was the first book I bought. I was in New York to create the basis of my knowledge of the startups. So this is in terms of book for the ones out there that want to start a new project. Then, of course, there are so many resources online, and I think it's so important to keep updated every day. I think I study new things every day. It's so important to have a presence in the market in that sense.
I love that. I think that's super, super important. And so as we look at 2022, I have one more bonus question. If we look at 2022 and we look at the future of fashion, right, and sustainability and innovation, what is the impact that company is going to be included in this, but what is the impact that Silvia wants to make? What do you hope to accomplish, or the impact you want to make as we look at 2022 and new trends coming out? We have the holiday coming up, buying, all that. What is the impact that you hope that you can make between now and the start of next year as Silvia?
Yeah, I have a big goal. I usually don't go with small goals, maybe, but we have this new project we are working on to involve also the big brands of fashion. To be more sustainable and to join Sherpa Bag for fashion rental. We think it's super important because when we will have also the big fashion brands on board and, joining our community, this will be also a big message that the fashion system is really doing something to change what is happening in the fashion impact in the environment.
I love that. That's cool. I think that's a big goal, and also one that is super awesome to go after. I think we need more companies to just make a stand on it. Like, people are still going to buy. People still want to be a part of it, but they want to spend their dollars where impact is made. And so let's make an impact together. And somebody needs to kind of rally that charge.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, we have to be all together in this. It's a process. It's not something we can do from one day to another. And we don't want to say to people, don't buy anymore, because of course it's natural to buy, but just be more aware of what you buy, the values that represents what you are wearing. because maybe you are wearing something from a fast fashion brand that as the workers that are unpaid or in bad work conditions. So you really want somebody else to pay the price you're not paying.
Yeah.
I think it's important.
I think it's very important, and I love it. Sylvia, thank you so much for being on. It was so much fun talking and getting to catch up. I know it's been a long time since you and I last chatted.
Yeah.
How do my listeners find you? Where can they follow along? Get to know more about you and share my bag. What platforms?
Yeah, first of all, our website, isharemybag.com. And then, of course, the social media. You can find share_my_bag on Instagram, Facebook, but for sure Instagram is our main platform.
Okay. Well, I will make sure to have the website and the Instagram handle on there so people can look and find. And Sylvia, thank you so much for being a part of it. Bear Nation, until next time, stay well. Bear Nation, once again, thank you for listening to the Bare Necessities of Entrepreneurship. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review. And until next time, take care.